I am WWF's longest reigning light heavyweight champion, Gilbert, and you are now somewhere in the ring.
The following podcast is scheduled for one recording with no time limit. Making their way down to somewhere in the ring, Andrew Sanford and Ryan Sprague.
Bow, 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 bow.
Guitar riffs, rock and roll,
I love it.
wrestling, rock.
Wrestling.
Hi, Ryan.
Should we talk some wrestling?
I think we should talk some wrestling. Did I ever show you? This is going to be nothing for the folks who are just listening, or maybe it will be someday. But I have a game called Wrestling.
Oh my God.
I have a board game called
so
Wrestling. Cool. It was a gift from my good friend Scott Witebski, who has a YouTube channel called The Frozen Gamer, which I highly recommend everybody check out. And it's fun. We should play it sometime. We would be able to play it very easily as like a YouTube episode or something. Ooh. It is like a dice rolling game. And I believe for decades, it was part of the like official, and Scott would know this better than I. He's the one who told me it was part of the official, like there was like a game board championships. And wrestling was part of that for quite some time.
Okay.
Yeah. It's super fun. Super fun.
I'm in. We'll have to do it for the Patreon. We'll get all the patrons together. And hey, speaking of Patreon,
hey, that's right. We got a new Patreon subscriber. Woo 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 woo.
Well, all right. Let's give him the shout out that he deserves. John K. John K joined our Patreon this morning, right before we went on air here. So thank you, John. Thank you so much for supporting us over at Somewhere in the Ring. We hope you enjoy your benefits over there. Priority to ask our guests questions, choose our topics that we talk about. What else?
I currently have Bondage Undertaker written on the front of my podium. And it could be John's name. We weren't sure because we talked earlier. I was like, we didn't want to just float his last name on there. But John, if you want your last name on this box, very professional podium. You let me know and it will be on there for the next episode. I got you. And thank you.
We got you, brother.
Very, very much. It was a little easier the first time because our first Patreon subscriber was a Papa Sprague, and we are familiar with him. It felt a little less intrusive to do that without his permission. But I probably should have asked him too.
That's okay.
But Ryan, welcome to Somewhere in the Ring. I'm welcoming you just in case you need to be welcomed to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
And hey, listeners.
Welcome, listeners. And there was a little show called WrestleMania this past weekend.
There was.
And I know you and I were texting throughout both nights. It was so much fun. We were live tweeting from the Somewhere in the Ring Twitter account, which was super fun. One of your relatives was like ringside, basically.
Yeah, we can say it. My older brother works for a website called Ringside Collectibles that sells wrestling action figures. That's why I've got this sexy Lexi right here, this Wolfpack Lex Luger that kind of, usually he hangs out back here, but my kids were playing with him earlier, so I'm going to put him right back where he belongs, right on the shelf, because the toys should be played with, really. But Thomas, who has the social tag Dramatico Rising, was there for the show and sent us some really great videos. So thank you, Thomas. It was really nice.
Thank you, Thomas.
He sent us so much stuff. It was great.
Yeah, it did truly make me feel like I was there. So got to thank him for that. Someday we'll get there. But I received an action figure from our special guest today, actually, who's going to be joining us for this review.
Inaugural guest,
baby. The first ever guest on Somewhere in the Ring. So without further ado, let's just bring him in. He gave me the Cody Rhodes action figure, our brand new Universal Champion. But let's bring in the champion of today's episode, the one and only Paul Kimball. Paul, welcome to the show.
How did that happen?
There we go.
Oh, jeez. I knew it.
Coming in hot.
Just give you my statement of purpose there.
That's fair.
Paul is a controversy creates cash kind of guest. So
is what he just, so for those who can't see, who aren't watching the feed, he just held up a sign that says WWE greater than AEW. And like, let's be frank, is that controversial currently? Is it
well,
really?
We'll get
And that's
there in
coming
the
from
news.
somebody. We will get there. Oh man, should we just dive into that? Well, no. First, Paul, please tell our listeners a little about what's that. What
there
else
we
is
go.
it?
AEW is greater than TNA. TNA is greater than, or WWE is greater than TNA. TNA is greater than AEW.
Fair enough.
Apparently, rumor has it we might see more WWE TNA crossovers in the future. Apparently, Triple H and Nick Khan are big on crossing over with other promotions right now, which
the possible exception of AEW, maybe.
Yeah, that probably won't happen. That's
going to be in our news too, guys. So, Paul,
yeah.
I guess, right before we get into the news, can you tell us a little about yourself, man? Who you are, your interest in wrestling, one of the many topics you and I connected on. So, give us kind of the origin story, I guess, of your connection to the wrestling world. Mm-hmm.
I'm a TV ghost hunter with Mr. Sprague here. I grew up loving wrestling when I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So our territory, I guess, was Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling, which was run, I believe, by the Dupree family. So Rene Dupree, who I think went on to be one of the Mounties in WWE, was part of that family. So I grew up with guys like Leo Burke, Big Stephen Pettipaw. I think Leo Burke was one of Bret Hart's sort of touchstones or whatever. Cuban Assassin, Killer Carl Crew, Bulldog Bob Brown, the Scorpion. They were all through here. So we used to watch it. My brother and I would watch it every Saturday afternoon on ATV, which was a local television channel here, and they do it in a studio. And I've seen some of it now, and I go, ooh. But back then it was like mind blown. And my dad would walk through every now and then and go, it's all fake. I'd be like, don't talk. The Scorpion's got him in a death lock. So from a very early age, my mind was warped by Atlantic Canadian professional wrestling and WWE. I mean, I've always been a WWE guy. When WCW had their brief sort of moment of fame in the mid to late 90s when there really was the Monday Night Wars, I watched WCW too, and I enjoyed a lot of it. I was not surprised when they went out of business either, because of the way they were doing business and what was going on. But they had a moment in time where they were as good in their own way as WWF back then was. But we have the benefit of hindsight, but looking back, it was always clear that they were not going to be WWF. But that's the benefit of hindsight. At the time, it really did seem like maybe they can be number one and WWF will go number two. But WWF is like the Roman Empire. It's no pun intended to Roman Reigns, but it is the Colossus.
Too soon.
It is Colossus. Is it too soon? It's the Colossus that has bestrode the world during my lifetime and will continue to bestride the world of pro wrestling if I live to be another 30 or 40 or 50 years, I think. And so it's nice, in all seriousness about AEW, it's nice when something like AEW comes along, because it gives wrestlers options for those people. And Ryan and I both have friends in the paranormal community who are wrestling fans, and they prefer AEW. And that's great, because I think it makes them nostalgic for the bad days of WCW. But I just look at WWE, and for me, I don't think sports entertainment is a bad term. I also like the term pro wrestling, so they're both cool. But it is an entertainment product. I'm sorry, it is.
Yeah, sure.
Nobody does entertainment like WWE in the world of wrestling. Nobody does storytelling. No offense, Tony Khan, but it's not your strong suit. Nobody does storytelling like WWE, and they make mistakes and they have bad, But to me, it's like watching cinema. Really good soap opera for guys, basically. Although it's not just for guys anymore because of the women's revolution. It's really good soap opera for anyone who likes fake fighting. We all know what it is, but with great stories and great production value. It's just amazing. But I still do have a soft spot in my heart for small town indie wrestling, which is what I grew up watching. So the first documentary, I'm a film and television director and producer. So the first documentary I ever did back in 1999 or 2000, I think it was 2000, as a director, was a half-hour doc for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which is like Canada's BBC for your American friends. And it was called A Night at the Opera. And I spelled night N-I-T-E because that's very pro wrestling. And it was Seaside Slam with mainstream wrestling. And I went down and I kind of filmed the show, but I did behind the scenes and who are all these guys. And it was maybe in front of 60 people in a cement parking lot in Sheet Harbor, which is a town in Nova Scotia, in like on the coast, like an hour and a half maybe from Halifax, nothing much around it. And maybe 800 people in the whole town. And here's this guy, his name's Devin Chittick. He's still in wrestling. And he created this promotion. He was inspired by Bret Hart. And so I thought this was fascinating. I want to go down and see, like, I get it. I get why The Undertaker does what he does for $1 million or whatever he gets paid. I even get why people do it for $250,000. You know, it's pretty good money. Sure. I want to know why these guys are getting hit over the head with wet floor signs for $50 a night. Like, what is driving these guys to do it? And so I went down and I just had an amazing time. It was, I'll shout out to the wrestlers: Lincoln Steen, Flex Falcone, Quincy Valentino, X-Ray Kyle Cruz, not Colonel Chaos. There's Colonel Cypress. Like just they had all these characters, Damian Dredd and Jeremiah Delinquent, and some of those guys are still wrestling. They went on to have decent careers in Canada. I don't think they ever made it out of Canada. But as much as I love the WWE and I love the show and I love the spectacle, I also like being in a cement parking lot watching a guy get hit with a water bottle by a little old lady in the front row who, he goes over and she whacks him. I remember that. It's in the film. Boink on top. And he's like, kind of thing. And it's just great, and somebody stands in the ring and goes, "I'm in this hellhole called Sheet Harbor." And, and it's like, yeah, that's like small town theater. Instead of being on Broadway. So I love Broadway. I'll be there in 2 weeks with my wife. I love small town indie theater too, and the same is true of pro wrestling. So that's my story in a very long. There's the very long nutshell.
I love that.
Sticking to it. That's awesome, Paul. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, and
love your
special.
Podcast. Amazing.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't fishing, but I'll take it.
No.
I'm fishing. I need as much reinforcement from Paul Kimball as I need. We should mention we're actually going to be dropping the doc that Paul made on our YouTube channel.
Very cool.
Paul has given us permission to do that. So it should be up on the Somewhere in the Ring YouTube channel by the time this airs, if not soon after. So you guys will be able to check that out. And again, Paul, thank you for letting us do that.
It's got one of the greatest moments in my film making history, and frankly in pro wrestling history. So we show up, and remember, there's only 60 people, and their ring announcer, this is their big summer event. This is their summer slam, Seaside Slam. So the ring announcer doesn't show up, and they're like, "What are we going to do?" Because everybody else is a wrestler or referee. And my production manager, Will Fraser, who's British, he, "Oh, hello," very. I think he went to Oxford or something. But yes, wow. It's like King Charles, but one level down. And I just look around and go, "Listen." So I go up to Devin, the promoter, and I go, "What if Will, who knows nothing about wrestling," we had to brief him, he goes in and he pretends he's a snooty British overlord, and he sort of talks down to the crowd, and he can be your ring announcer. And Devin went, "Love it. Don't have any choice. Let's do it." So as a joke, I said, "So Will, when you go in, your ring name is going to be Sir Oswald Mosley, who was the leader of the British fascists in the 1930s. And I said, nobody in Sheet Harbor is going to know who Sir Oswald Mosley is. So it's we're both historians. So it's an inside joke for us."
Sure.
He gets up there, he goes, "Hello, it's back here in the colonies. My name is," I think he said Lord Oswald Mosley. "Lord Oswald Mosley." And somebody in the crowd yells out, "Fascist!" Going, somebody in Sheet Harbor knows who Oswald Mosley is? Holy moly. The education system in this province is working.
That's all.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, man. I'm surprised they don't teach pro wrestling at Oxford. I don't know why go to
what
Oxford.
The hell?
If that's not offered.
Get on that, J.R. Tolkien. Come on.
Maybe they do.
That's amazing.
Oh, awesome.
Well-
Well, I just realized my mic wasn't on, guys, so I do apologize if my audio was terrible at the beginning there.
Classic.
Been having a lot of issues with that lately, but
I didn't notice.
I blame the
Didn't
ghosts.
didn't notice in the slightest.
All right.
Should we hop into the news?
Let's hop into the news. Yes, absolutely. It's the
Let's hop
ghosts,
into-
Paul.
It's the ghosts.
Andrew, do you want to do our first story that
absolutely do.
involves your favorite
absolutely
Bucks?
do. Oh my god, my least favorite tag team maybe ever. Spot Fest Young Bucks, which is really saying something because I'm sure there are other worse tag teams out there, but man, they annoy me. Announced late on Saturday night, and I'm not even sure how they announced, if it was like a straight announcement or if it just got out there. I know there was like a graphic that they are going to air on Dynamite tonight. If people are listening to this the day it comes out, footage of the backstage altercation between CM Punk and Jack Perry, who Tony Khan, like everybody at first was like, is this a joke? Because it seems like a joke. And then it's like, no, it's not a joke. They're going to air this footage. There's no details about what the footage is going to show, but apparently Tony Khan was very upset about CM Punk's interview that he did last week in the MMA Hour, and has been meaning to release this footage for a while for whatever reason. And they are going to spend, I don't know, upwards of 20 minutes to a half an hour, I would assume, of their precious TV time talking about a wrestler that no longer works for their company in an attempt to embarrass him, I guess. An attempt
Sounds
to
very
take shots
mature.
at him. Yeah. Tony Khan even confirmed it to Sports Illustrated today, saying AEW has a great track record on delivering what we advertise, and it is real footage. This is real life footage that affected many people, and it will air for the first time on TBS during Dynamite. Now, one of the things that Ryan and I talked about last time, to show that sign again, one of the things that Ryan and I talked about last time is I think it's very telling that AEW has yet to name like Max as their streaming home. They don't really have a streaming home yet, even though that is the parent company that they are doing business with through TBS. And maybe a stunt like this is their hopes that they do get that to happen. Paul's point, it feels very late stage WCW nonsense. And look, WWE's pulled stuff like this before, but when you are taking shots at another company that can't really be answered, which I would argue is not what Punk was doing last Monday. He was just kind of telling his side of the story. He took a couple shots, absolutely, but it wasn't advertised as such. It wasn't, I'm going to make a big deal out of this. He was doing an interview. He was asked the questions. He answered. This, to advertise that you were going to do this, feels childish. It feels immature. And I think it's going to blow up in their faces. At worst, we're going to see like maybe CM Punk not get Jack Perry in as good a chokehold as he said. Aside from that, there's like nothing really that I think is going to come out of this. It's certainly not footage of the incident that everyone's actually interested in, which involved Punk, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Ace Steel, and a dog. So it just feels weak. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Paul, go ahead, man.
So, I had a girlfriend once when I was in college, and she dumped me. And I spent a couple of weeks after, not stalking her, but, like bemoaning my fate and talking a lot about her and calling her. I was young. That's what this is. That's like, the only difference is she dumped me. This is a case where they dumped him. They're the girlfriend, but now they're stalking the guy they dumped, which was CM Punk. And like, as Ryan knows, I'm a big CM Punk fan. I also recognize, he's not a perfect person. Nope. But I have always believed that he's a business person. You do the business, you're willing to make money with him. You're willing to do things right, which I think is part of the problem he had with WWE initially. Mm-hmm. Then you can do business with Punk. And I think he got into the lunatic asylum that even the people who like AEW will call it a lunatic asylum. And took a look around and was like, what the heck are these people doing? There's nobody in charge. There's no structure. There's no vision. It's just like, cool, you two guys go out and have a match for no reason and flippy floppy and do your thing. And that's it. And Punk to me strikes me as a guy's like, listen, I want to be able to do what I want to do. let's talk about that. But once we, let's have a vision. Like, what's our destination?
Sure.
And AEW is just all about the journey, and they never know when they're going to get off the off ramp. So this strikes me as, I'll speak as a business person. This is terrible business. Like, whatever they think they're going to accomplish, this is just like terrible PR.
Yeah.
Anybody in the film industry, like, what are you doing? We're releasing a new science fiction film 6 months after Star Wars, and you put up like Star Wars sucks. I mean, I'm sorry. WWE, it's speaking of Star Wars, it's
Oh,
I think he froze up a little bit.
no.
But he was making a great point there. Like, it's WWE's the behemoth, and this is, it's that classic, like, if you shoot at the devil, you better not miss kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think Punk, if I was Punk, and I'm not, but I don't think he's stupid. I think he'll just ignore it. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, we want your attention. Pay attention to us. If I'm Punk in WWE, it's just like, dudes, we're on top of the world. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. I'll just add, I think this is a horrible mistake. I see this as, it reminds me kind of like when WCW spoiled Mankind winning the championship because it was pre-taped. And then that blew up in their faces because everyone switched the channel to go watch him do that, and completely a botched attempt at
they never beat Raw
in the competition.
Yep, they never beat Raw in the ratings again after that.
Yep. Yeah.
Not once.
Completely blew up in their faces. So I think that's what we're going to see tonight, whatever the hell this is. So
the only people who will benefit or like this are people who already hate Punk. So that's baked in. And people, the real diehard AEW guys, and they'll be like, "Yeah, you showed WWE," and that you're not building a new audience. You're actually shrinking the new audience because you're not offering good stuff, and you're just catering to your little. And that's a terrible business model. It's just terrible.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you nailed it. Like it's embarrassing. Like, it's just embarrassing. It really is. It is. Yeah. It is something there. Every now and then, Tony Khan comes across as the the rich kid, like with too much money, and this is a perfect example of that. Like, it feels like he thinks he's untouchable in a certain way. It's nonsense. It's stupid. It is using your megaphone for the wrong reasons if they wanted to. Because one thing I will say about AEW is, more often than not, their matches are very good. Is there a lot of build up and set up to them? Not really. And they'll just kind of happen sometimes. But more often than not, they are just putting out good matches. And if they really wanted to show WWE, they would lean into that some way. They wouldn't basically set up a story that they can't finish. Like, you can't do anything with this. This is going to give you 20 minutes. And guess what? I'm not going to watch it live. I'm going to look at the clips on Twitter or something. Like, it's not going to draw on viewers.
Just be like, my advice to AEW, and they don't care, would be just be you. You're quite right. They put on good matches, and they have tons of great talent, both old and new. Maybe you should promote some of your new talent a bit more. Well, look, I've made indie feature films. I don't pretend that I'm competing with like the Marvel Universe.
Sure.
Because there's the Marvel Universe. I can't compete. Here's what I can do. Make the best independent film I can, get it in festivals, get good reviews, and there you go. And that's what I can do. And I'm absolutely fine with that. And I don't feel jealous of the Marvel Universe or a big blockbuster with, Johnny Depp or whatever. AEW needs to adopt that mindset and understand, we're always probably going to be number 2. Let's just do number 2 really well.
Exactly.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, speaking of number
that's
2.
What I like to hear.
It looks like somebody else might be jumping ship from AEW as well, or has already, which is that Matt Hardy is a free agent now. I am genuinely curious what his next step will be, because at the end of the day, I mean, his last run at WWE wasn't the most successful. I do think he's wrestling pretty well at this point, but he's almost 50. And it's one of those instances where I saw people assuming I would see him jump over to WWE as a producer before I saw them wanting him as an on-air talent, is basically the point. It's one of the first times in a long time where I think WWE has kind of an embarrassment of riches roster wise. They have a lot of good young talent as well that they're working with, or at least trying to sometimes. Something that WWE obviously honestly could be better about. But I don't know. This is one of those first times where I was like, he left, and it seems like he's making a big deal out of it. And he was at Raw last week, I believe, if not the week before. He was spotted backstage and talked about that. Yeah, but he also, like, they're all friends at the end of the day, or most of them are friends. So he could have just been hanging out. So yeah, I don't know. It's like exciting, and it's one of those things where I'm just like, I don't think WWE needs him. Maybe he goes to like back to Impact / TNA. No, they're TNA again now, right? Is that it? And so. Yeah. But I don't see WWE having much use for him, even if he is, still doing what he does.
Yeah. Well, and I think, again, to go back to like sort of the trivial nature of AEW, or Tony Khan to be specific, he made sure that contract of Matt Hardy's was extended literally just after WrestleMania, so that Hardy, no matter what his involvement could be at WWE, that he would not show up at the biggest show of the year. So that was pretty interesting to hear. So again, to the point of, this seems to be just such a tit for tat war that Tony Khan is trying to do. Like Paul has told me in the past, this is like a tiny country trying to go up against the United States militarily in a war. I mean, I don't want to get too far into, politics or anything, but it's true. Like they're throwing pebbles, at the huge giant, and it just looks bad. It looks bad all around. And the fact that Matt Hardy will not be returning to AEW speaks volumes.
Possibly. His contract is up.
Or he's leveraging.
Yeah.
He could be leveraging.
Yeah, which is what you want. That's why it's nice that we have these two companies, because guys like that should be able to get their bag if they can, if they can still do what they've been doing in the ring. I think Matt Hardy's a great talent. I think he probably that's somebody who could be a very good locker room presence. And honestly, it could be somebody that could help maybe control things a little bit more in AEW, but who knows if they're interested in that. And I don't want to spend the whole show talking about them either, but it's especially for a WrestleMania recap episode.
I know.
But it's, it's relevant, it's interesting, and I'll be excited to see where he ends up.
I would just say, I like Matt Hardy. I like him better than Jeff. I always have. If I was WWE and I wanted to sign him, I would never put him in the ring again. I think he's done. But
yeah, that's fair.
I think he could be he's a smart guy. And I think he could really help a younger wrestler as a manager type figure. I would say he could help the Final Testament. But they have Paul Ellering, and Paul Ellering's pretty good. And the Final Testament is dead on arrival. So, but find somebody else. There's lots of young talent on the roster that could benefit from having him be, the slightly wacky mentor, if you will, or mouthpiece or whatever to a younger talent. Austin Theory pops to mind for some reason, but there's lots of others that could benefit from a Hardy association, and see what happens. That would be the role that he would fit well in if you wanted him. And put him in the Hall of Fame as a solo artist. Wrestler.
Version 1, the version 1 Matt Hardy. I guess I got to do it this way since it's these figures. I think that's a great call. Or even just a producer backstage, get him that legend contract, have him show up on the video games, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I agree. I think he would be a valuable asset out of the ring, not as much in the ring.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm gonna jet past these other two news things, and then we'll hop right into WrestleMania. This was pretty cool. Michael Buffer, the famed ring announcer, praised Samantha Irvin's work at WrestleMania. So cool. She's just like becoming the heart, I think, of Paul.
It's that iOS. Yeah, it's because you're on your iPad. That's
oh my god.
Yeah.
What just happened there?
I don't know.
The thumbs up like this. If you get it up there, you'll get fireworks. You gotta kind of censor. It's weird. Yeah.
Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll try it again later. So Michael Buffer said of Samantha, ring announcer Samantha Irvin ruled WrestleMania last night, and her emotional final announcement was awesome. She was featured on camera ring center. That was a smart production move, and she was just brilliant. Her timing, pace, drama, energy was perfect. And
Yep.
this, again, is coming from like the GOAT of ring announcing.
Yeah.
And I know, a lot of people give her flack for being so active on social media and like having someone videotape her reactions to everything. I love it. It
Yeah.
adds so much reality to what's going on, and she genuinely cares about the stories and what's happening. So
Mhm.
God forbid you not only are good at your job, but love what you're doing and are invested in it.
Yeah,
So I
and
thought that
care
was
for
cool.
your coworkers. Like I've seen people too try to be like, her and Cody are friends. Like these people are friends. They work together,
Mhm.
and it was a big emotional night. And it's so wild to me, like to hear / see a bunch of talentless people try to say that she was faking what she was doing. There was like such a lump in her throat when she was trying to announce for him that you can't fake that. Some of the best actors in the world can't do that without getting there. And she just got there naturally. I thought that was wonderful. Yeah, and I thought it was so cool that Buffer shouted her out.
Yeah, she was great. If it was genuine, A plus. If she was
Yep.
faking it, A plus plus.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
I bought it. So she's great. It was a great performance. She was one of the highlights of the whole weekend.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally. Who would ever think a ring announcer would be a highlight of WrestleMania? That's where WWE is at. I just love it.
Yeah, I ran on all cylinders, man.
Talk about it, man. WrestleMania 40 Behind the Curtain documentary will release tonight as of this recording, of this airing. So Wednesday night. It will chronicle the entire lead up to WrestleMania 40 with The Rock, Cody Rhodes, and how everything came to be. So this is going to be interesting. What do you guys think about this?
I would be more interested, and obviously this is almost an impossibility given the company we're talking about, if this documentary was done by a third party. This feels, there you go. Let Paul do it. Like this feels
That's where you've been the last
very,
10 days, Paul.
Yeah. This is very, history is written by the victors. We've already heard The Rock try to say that his inserting himself and then being pushed back was the plan all along, which is asinine. Like there's just no way. I would if yes, he is like that is genius level storytelling and very fun creative stuff. And who knows, maybe they won't say that in the actual documentary. Because they're in the trailer, there've been like Triple H talks about how like, 80% of this was written up by like October and we had to pivot and these kind of things. So I'm going to reserve my judgment on that one only because it's one of those weird times where I just can't trust them to be honest about this. I would love for them to be honest. I would be more impressed with The Rock, I think, if he went out there, got booed to an insane degree for this decision, and then decided nobody's liking this, let's change it. Instead of him going, before the Royal Rumble even happened, I knew we're going to have this happen, and then I'm going to come out and be the best bad guy ever. I don't buy it. I just don't.
I think he's moved a bit off that. You guys were doing your live reactions, and I stuck around. Ryan wandered down the hall at my house, and I watched the press conferences.
Mm-hmm.
And the first night, The Rock and Paul Levesque both came out, and they didn't get into the weeds too much about it, but there was more of an acknowledgement. They would say things like, as I recall, what's great about the WWE is that when the fans speak, we listen and we can pivot. And so if that's not quite an admission that they screwed up, it's kind of it's the most you're probably going to get, which is, we did this. And I get why they do it. Roman Reigns and The Rock, like they just bing, bing, bing. You get blinded by that's a big show. And I think they lost sight briefly of what they, should be doing, but full credit to them. Like WWE gets criticized so often for just ramming it down your throats. That's the old Vince McMahon WWE. I really do believe the new WWE is more nimble, and they're probably still going to ram a few things down our throats. But that kind of thing, the Daniel Bryan stuff where it took so long, I don't think that you're going to see that happen again. I think you will see them move quickly if it's so bloody obvious. And with Cody, it was just obvious. So was it pre-planned? No, I'll never buy it. But did they move quickly? Yeah. So you're right, Andrew. I give them more credit for that.
Yeah.
Like, because that's responsive to the fans in an organic way that I like.
Absolutely.
Agreed. I agree.
That's
Well, let's
why
find
they're the
something we
best.
can disagree about.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh, well,
guys.
I mean, you're wearing a Tampa Bay Rays hat. Do we have to go any further?
Ouch.
I'm a Red
Ouch.
Sox fan. It's only because I travel to Tampa every year with my friends.
Oh. Hey. Look,
Yeah, I got in
Red
trouble
Sox
for
fans.
wearing a Mets hat by Paul, so I can't wear that
Yes.
anymore. On set, at least on set.
No Mets fans. Never
All
forget
right.
96.
I know, man. Breaking my heart. Let's move to WrestleMania Night 1, guys. So I thought we'd do kind of a fun Bleacher Report-esque thing here. We'll go through each match. We'll grade the match from A to whatever, D. And then we'll do a night grade, night 1, night 2, and then we'll do an overall WrestleMania grade at the end. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
There will be a couple that I have to abstain from, as
That's
we
fine.
had mentioned in our recaps, just because putting down children and things of that nature. But only a couple, and mostly in night 2.
Okay, sounds good. Well, let's start with night 1. We had Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch for the Women's World Championship. And before we say anything about the match, we should mention Becky Lynch was very sick. She had a 102-degree fever and strep throat going into this match. So let's keep that in mind before
What
we
a difference 4 years makes. 4 years ago, WrestleMania happened in front of an empty building because of an infectious disease. And now we have somebody with 102 fever wrestling regardless. And don't get me wrong. There are things happen. Like, we are in a different world now than we were. But I thought that when I heard that, I was like, wow. It's what else? There was something currently for the movie Twisters. They're going to have these tubes that you can stand in to get air blown on you in movie theaters. And again, just another thing where I'm like, okay, I guess we're maybe out on the other side, or everybody just cares less now. So it's so yeah, but I do think that's important to note, because I thought that and I thought Becky Lynch did a fine job in the match, but you can tell she was off a step, I think.
She was a little out of it. Yeah, I think I mentioned
and the
that.
match was quick.
Yeah,
I missed the finish because I was watching it. Technically, that was the first wrestling match one of my sons had ever watched. And to his credit, he was just like, they're hurting each other. That's not nice. They're only 3. But so I thought it was going really well, and I was just like, all right, I'll go put them to bed real quick. They were very cooperative. They laid down. I came back down, and the match was just over. And I was like, oh, I was only gone for like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So it felt quick, but I think the impact was there. If
Absolutely.
that makes sense.
They hit every signature move. They, couple false pins, whatever, was fine. Looked like a couple botches, but you can't blame them for that. First match of the night. Becky's kind of out of it. And honestly, like, it was a great match. Despite that, I thought it was a fantastic way to open WrestleMania. Yeah, that's all. They looked great, both of them. Rhea's rocking some long hair extensions now. Becky had like her words from her book like on her costume, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah. I also love Rhea is now in the long tradition of having a band play your entrance music at WrestleMania, which I always love. Even if I don't necessarily love the band, I'm like, this is cool. It's live music. It's what takes WrestleMania and pushes it to that extra level. That kind of production always elevates things. So I really appreciated that. I thought that was a lot of fun.
It's my way or the highway.
I know. I have no idea who the band is. That was awesome. And in the press conference afterwards, they asked her about it, and she was so just childlike glee. Like, you're Rhea Ripley, one of the best wrestlers in the world. And she's like, I love that band, and I got to do that with them and come out. And she interacted with them and just, look, for me, Charlotte Flair is the greatest female wrestler of all time.
Fair.
Becky Lynch is pretty close, right behind her. They're the 2 best out of the 4 horsewomen for me. I don't know if Becky will pass Charlotte someday or they'll equal, but someday I think Rhea Ripley might be, I would rank her maybe someday better than both. She's just an amazing talent on every level.
Yeah.
Promos, she's got the look, she's got the attitude, and she can go in the ring. I'd give the match a B because they were a little, for reasons that are understandable. And not only that, she's running 102-degree fever in a ring that's like at 48 degrees, or as Canadians would
that's
say,
right.
12 or whatever it is in Celsius. So
Yeah.
she's wrestling with a fever and sick on a really cold, windy night outside. So absolute kudos to Becky Lynch for doing that. They put on a good match. They have many better matches in them going forward, but that's the wealth of talent that WWE has in the women's division is just like kudos to Lynch, Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Charlotte Flair, and the people that gave them the opportunity because they really did start the women's revolution. And I think it was Bayley maybe that talked about that in her press conference. But to see, it's now you've got all these younger wrestlers coming up that are there, and they're all very happy. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of jealousy or anything. It's like, yeah, bring it. Let's go. Let's put on great shows.
Punch up, baby.
I think I would also probably be at a B, and I think if anything, it's because we talked about it a lot. That was the build up to this match was, I think, greater than the match itself, which is always tough. It's always tough to equal the build up that you're doing. But I thought you had two people, like you're saying, Paul, who are like pretty close to the top of their game. Becky up there, if not surpassing the top of her game. Rhea, like right there on the cusp. I think Rhea Ripley needs a great foil. Like she needs a better. And I thought the Becky Lynch and her stuff was fun. The buildup was nice, but the match just kind of like let that down. I'm waiting to see Rhea Ripley get to have like a rivalry that, we talk about forever kind of a deal. And I don't think that's happened yet.
No, and I don't think it'll be the 4 horsewomen.
No, me neither.
Probably nor should it. She can have great matches with them and move beyond them. She needs her, like Austin had Hart. So, but Bret Hart was not his great rival. He had the great match, but then Austin moved on to find his great rivals once Hart made him in that amazing match. So Becky Lynch and those, like, they're going to have a lot of stuff going on. But Rhea Ripley's rival is someone like Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill.
Read my mind.
Out there at her current level, that's the rivalry that she has to build out herself. After they all have some fun with the 4 horsewomen or the 3 that are left. Sasha Banks will be back someday. So the 4.
Oh yeah, she's even said as much recently, which cracked me up.
That was a bold move to say.
Yeah, she's like, I'm
doing in another company.
Yeah, she's like, I jumped ship, but look, I'll be back eventually. Like, let's be honest. Like, it was.
Oh wait, are you recording this? I did. Wait.
Yeah,
I've got a mortgage. As soon as that mortgage is paid off, I'm back in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we should mention Rhea did win. Obviously she retained her title. I'm giving it an A. I'll be a bit more generous. Just because Becky's really grown on me in the past month or so. And I think she deserves this break, honestly.
Sure. Oh yeah.
She's got her kid.
And it looks like Seth Rollins is going to be taking a break too for a little bit. It's rumored, which good for him as well. Like, yeah,
totally. They deserve
that break.
Both of them. Let's move on to the 6-pack ladder match tag team championships. I'll go through this quick. This was Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, R-Truth and The Miz, Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, and Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, who challenged Finn Balor and Damian Priest for the tag titles in a 6-pack ladder match. 12 men fighting over 2 sets of belts. I don't even know where to begin. This was chaos.
Oh, I know where to begin. I said pretty firmly that there's no way that a team called A-Town Down Under was going to win. And man, was I wrong. If anything, it's a perfect example of them not shying away from what can. I always forget. And one of the things that I think WWE has been really good at in recent years is getting legitimate heat. You look at Dominic Mysterio, you look at the situation with The Rock, you take a situation that annoys people and you just kind of lean into it a little bit. Like there are ways to do that poorly, which they have shown off in the past. But this was one of the first times where I was just like, oh, I think they really want me to hate Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. And guess what? Mission accomplished. So like I can only be so mad at that. Like you have to every now and then you have to turn on your Andy Kaufman brain and remind yourself like you want to hate these people. It's okay if you hate one of these wrestlers or their character, because that's the whole point. And when they took those belts down, I groaned so loud, and then I was like, okay, well played. Like especially to have that playoff of the other winners of the match, the Awesome Truth, who is like the feel good baby faces in the whole thing. It should have been so clear from the outset. That being said, I don't know about you two, I did not expect that they were going to be splitting up the titles until they showed us them each hanging separately. And I was like, oh, okay. So probably I was like, they're going to split these up.
Yeah.
Which was a fun surprise. And it added more to the match.
It did. Yeah, Andrew, I agree with you. I did not think that was going to happen, but I know Paul actually called that like days before. And I was
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
He's like, this is the perfect opportunity. Paul, I don't want to speak for you. Yeah, but
right.
You did get that one right. Yeah,
night, so.
We were going tit for tat in predictions the night of. But yeah, like getting the titles back to Raw and SmackDown, it was a great way to do it. Paul, let me if you want to elaborate, please do. But
no, I think it's a great way to do that. You just said, and here's my really short thing. Pete Dunne in a main event kind of WrestleMania tag match instead of Butch, thumbs up. So correcting some mistakes, seeing Tyler Bate, he's great. So there's two takeaways I have from that. One is something you were talking about, Andrew, which I'll circle back to. The other one is tag team wrestling is, I don't want to say sexy, but tag team wrestling is cool again, not just in AEW. And I always said AEW has taken it more seriously, done a better job of it, whether you like the Bucks or not. But, they took tag team wrestling seriously, and they have from the beginning. And I thought that was one of the good things I give AEW credit for. I think WWE is doing it now too. Whether in response to AEW, I doubt it, but maybe. But maybe it's because Triple H is in charge. But there was so much talent in that ring. Those are 6 good tag teams in different ways. Yeah. And there were other good tag teams that weren't involved in that. So, like Pretty Deadly or whatever. The other thing I'll say about Austin Theory, so here's a hot take for you. Vince McMahon is evil. However, every now and then, Vince McMahon would get something right within the confines of pro wrestling. And Austin Theory is one of those things. I am convinced Austin Theory is a generational talent. I'm not going to say he's the next John Cena, but they botched him earlier. It just, didn't seem to click. So take a step back, do a bit of a reboot. But he's still super young, and he's still, to me, I watch him. I hate him. But you know what? I could see him as a face someday too. I really think he oozes talent in a way that most of the other guys in that match don't. They're really good, but he's got the potential to do that. And he could fail too, but to see him, put him with Grayson Waller, put him in a tag team, give him the title, let him, do the heat thing and stuff like that. Yeah, I just think the kid, and I can say that because I'm 57, the kid's got tons of talent. And it's one of the things, I guess during the end of the McMahon era, he sort of said, yeah, this kid. And he saw it too, I assume, or Triple H did, whatever. And I think they were right. So kudos for putting, Austin Theory and putting the title on him. And let's see what he and Waller can do, because Waller's fun too. I don't think he's a great wrestler, but the two of them together, actually, they're kind of fun. And there's a lot of nice matchups that I could see the two of them getting involved in with other teams. So was it. I give the match, I think I gave it an A- on the night of for the chaos. Downgraded to a B+, but it was a typical ladder match. There were great spots. Nobody got killed. And I think the right two teams probably went over at the end. So
agreed. Piggybacking off of nobody got killed. I just hope Gargano is okay. To be completely honest, from DIY.
You were talking about the spot off the side of the ring, right?
Yeah.
Through the table. Did he take the brunt of that? From the angle I saw, it was whoever's head he was driving looked like they really, but I didn't see
I'm
Did
pretty
Gargano?
sure it was Gargano took like
Okay.
the impact on that because it looked like he
Ugh.
was legit hurt after like
Eh,
his neck. But again, like everyone that entire weekend sold everything so well injury wise. I
Mhm.
can't tell which were real, which were fake. And
Sure.
that is the point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a little scary. Andrew and I texted back and forth at one point because we saw the ref grab Damian Priest's
Yes.
leg and try to pull him
Yes.
off the ladder. And we were both like, why is the ref interfering? What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Apparently the ladder was broken and she
Mhm.
knew it, and she was
Incredible.
doing an incredible job of trying to save this superstar from injuring himself possibly. So that was interesting. They would eventually change the ladder out. And then my last thing I'll bring up is R-Truth. I mean, he was the highlight of this match for me. The comedy, the one he thought it was a tag team match
I
at one
know. It's like,
point.
tag me in, tag me
He
in.
Yep.
pinned
Yeah.
somebody at one point. It was just, and then for him to be the one to actually win the belts, just loved it. Absolutely loved it. I gave it a, what did I give it? Let me double check. I gave it a B. I gave it a
Yeah.
B overall.
I
Yeah.
think that's where I about lay with it as well. I think what made the weekend really special was that I think everybody, for the most part, was riding it like a B or higher when I like look back at the matches. Aside from like the one that I mostly missed that Ryan said was one of his least favorite of the weekend. So not to bury the lead, but I would think this was a B for me as well. And then, oh man, I forgot that they followed it up with another tag match. Should we hop right into the next one?
Let's do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Andrew,
it
give
was
us.
Andrade and Rey Mysterio against Santos Escobar and Dominic Mysterio, Dirty Dom. I'll be honest with you. I really thought, and there were two instances of this weekend where I think the wrong team won, and this is one of those.
Okay.
This is one of those.
Explain.
I think that the Dom's shelf life is going to be short-lived if he does not start legitimately winning more matches. I do. Because I think he gets that heat, he gets all that, but this should have been a moment where he gets put over. But then it's that same instance where Andrade is back and kind of their like shiny new toy, and it was a great match and they had a lot of fun. But I don't understand the purpose of that. I think Rey and Andrade could have lost the match and still retained their status. And I think I was all but expecting Dom to get kicked out of Judgment Day the next night. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was that, or 2 nights later. Like it felt like they were burying him a little bit, which I don't understand, frankly, because again, when you generate that kind of heat, you got to capitalize a little bit. And I think they were doing a great job at that when he was holding the NXT international, whichever title that was. Like he's a much better in-ring performer now than when he first started. I think the work is there. He's been putting it in. He's good enough that was CM Punk's first match back with the company, was at a live show against Dom. So I just didn't understand having them lose. That being said, I thought the match was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'll just piggyback off of that. It was good. I loved the sort of mix of lucha style and like the signature WWE style of wrestling throughout. You got the best of both worlds, honestly. The one move, and forgive me, I don't remember the guy's name, but the one who got like launched off of the rope out in, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That move where he like catapulted off.
They just catapulted him. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was incredible. Like I love seeing spots like that. Gosh, which one was that? I don't remember. But yeah. The reason I'm gonna give this match a B minus, because of the ending to it. I thought it was the cheesiest thing ever. Which I guess you can not fault them. It's WrestleMania. These things always happen, but they tried to appease the home crowd and they brought out a couple of the Philadelphia Eagles. It was Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson who came out in lucha masks and kind of literally interfered and changed the outcome of the match, which was crazy. And eventually
we've come a long way from the come a long way from the Pete Rose stink face. It's and look, nobody deserves it more. But I think for that reason, Ryan, it's funny. That's why it's a B+ for me instead of a B, because I think it's moments like that make WrestleMania again lift it to this kind of next level event where it's not just for wrestling fans. It's a big part of for wrestling fans, but they can draw in and make it a bigger show by being like, this is for everybody. This is why professional wrestling is this fun thing that everybody can really enjoy if they want
You're
to.
right.
It's because you can do stuff like that. You can have Jason Kelsey come out in an Eagles luchador mask, and
Or Snoop Dogg give a people's elbow.
Or Snoop Dogg give a people's elbow. Like, come on, who doesn't want more Snoop Dogg? So I think it'll be at a B+ for me. What about you, Paul?
I give it an A-. I'm it's a high A-. Tempted to go A for two reasons. One, I love tag team wrestling. I love shenanigans. I love chaos.
Yeah.
I love Andrade. So one of the things. So here's a little knock on AEW. You had Andrade and you didn't know what to do with him.
Dude.
Shame on you.
Yep.
And you've got Malachi Black and you don't seem to know what to do with him. Shame on you.
No idea. Yep.
But Andrade, you guys are idiots. So I looked at it. I got this one right. There was no way they were going to have Andrade lose in his first main kind of match back on the roster. Fair. So as soon as they inserted him in, the prediction was easy for me. At the end of the day, I kind of was thinking that maybe Santos Escobar would turn on Dominic Mysterio, because the destination for Dom for me is Superface. Someday he reforms, he and Dad, smoochy, huggy, huggy, and he goes on to have a pretty nice career as a face, and maybe with a bit of an Eddie Guerrero kind of edge, whatever. And I thought maybe they would do that after the match, that as Ray's walking up, Santos goes ape on Dom, and Ray comes in for the save. They didn't do it, but I think that's coming at some point. And, that, and not like a hug, but just to save his son from getting beaten, and then walks away. And if anybody's going to beat you, it's going to be Dad. It's going to be me.
Yeah.
Only if I have to. So, and Dom starts to realize just a little bit, maybe deadbeat Dad cared about me all along. And that's a long-term story. I thought they might start it there. They didn't. Okay, fine. But Andrade was going to go over, and as soon as they put him in that match, and I'm okay with that. But the match itself was a lot of fun. And I agree with you, Andrew. Bringing the Eagles in, awesome. It's a hometown crowd. Find a moment to pop. Sure. Great.
Yep. Yeah. Get that. I guess it's still called heat either way, but you want that pop, you want that praise, you want that, you want people to get excited for that reason. I agree. And I also thought that there was going to be a nice little moment between Dom and Ray at the end, which I was surprised. I think you're right. They're just kind of taking their time with that.
Yep.
There's time. Yep. Yeah. If WWE does anything, it's playing the long game. So
plus with all these superhero bodies out there, like Austin Theory and all these guys, it was nice to see Kelsey go, roar. And I went, you know what? He's bigger than I am, but I'm in that ballpark. So
there you go. Yeah. And he's athletic too. Somebody showed he hopped up into that ring over the and he's got like boots on, like some kind of nice boots on. Like, it was really impressive.
I wonder if he rehearsed that. He had to have, because that was a smooth move. I'll give him that. Yeah. Well, let's move to something that's not as smooth.
Such a bummer.
Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso. The video package, fantastic.
Maybe
the match, not so much. Andrew, let's start with you, man. The father of twins, give it to us.
Yeah, I think about my kids all the time, and the idea of them possibly getting to do something like this with each other on this grand scale, that's the dream. And I think they played up that video package so well, giving us their history, giving us, just reminding us of what was going on here, not only what was at stake, but what has led to all this. And even just knowing that they as brothers got to do this together was emotional enough for me and exciting enough. And then it was even a bigger letdown than the package leading up to the Rhea and Becky match, because at least in that match, Becky was trying her hardest just with 102 fever.
Right.
With this one, Jimmy's just not a very good singles wrestler. He's just not,
Thank you.
It's really stinks. Like I wish that there could have been something more there, but it was just Jay running circles around him. Like it felt almost like a squash match, even though it wasn't. I don't even think it was produced that way. It's just Jimmy's not very good, and so the match felt boring at worst, and then so at best it was like slightly emotional. Like I felt more when Shawn Michaels said "I love you" to Ric Flair, a man I could not care less about, and before kicking him at whichever WrestleMania that was, and to the idea that they would have almost like a beat for beat kind of moment in this match, and I felt nothing is a shame. It's a real bummer. So this
Agreed.
one's, I think, I know I said most of the matches were running like. This week when we're running out of B, this one would be I'll only give it a B- because I do think video packages are just as important as the match itself. They go hand in glove. And I think that the video package for this was spectacular, and I at least got to watch that. You know what I mean? But the way it played out, even with them showing up the next night, not to jump ahead, but it just all felt kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm kind of excited to see them either spend time apart or get back together as a tag team, which probably won't happen anytime soon.
Agreed. Yeah, I'll be quick with this one. I'm gonna move mine. I had a C+. I'm gonna go up to a B- because I think you're right. I think packages are very important. I did like the moment of please help me, please forgive me. Like storytelling wise, not bad. Not bad.
I see. I would disagree
Wrestling-wise,
with you there. People in that audience didn't buy that for a second. And they
yeah,
made it, they
no,
were
I
very
didn't buy
vocal,
it.
but still, if you want to do something like that, if you want to have a moment where we are supposed to question whether it made no sense, it made no
Good
sense for
point.
Jay to trust him in
All
that
right.
moment. It made
All
zero
right.
sense because we were already so far removed from the video package, and the storytelling of that in the match itself was so poor. It just felt like it for a second. I was like, Jay, you're not an idiot. Like this just makes me think you're an idiot.
Good point.
You
I'm moving
know?
back down. Moving back down to a C+. This is why you're my co-host, Andrew. This is why you're my co-host, buddy.
I haven't heard the crowd reject something like that in a match, like since they rejected The Rock coming in for Cody. Like it
Right.
felt that visceral. They were like, "Are you serious? Like this match isn't very good, and now we're supposed to believe that Jay's gonna throw it all away?" Like, dumb.
Such a good point.
Dumb.
Paul, thoughts? Grade.
So I'll preface this like this one might be a little longer because I got a lot of thoughts about this one. So
Okay.
I'll begin by saying I think it's a toss up for me, but the Hardy Boys or Devon and Bubba Ray, the Dudley Boys. I don't know what the greatest tag team of all time is. I think it's between those two, Edge and Christian, just underneath. But the Usos in the modern generation, modern times, to me, are the greatest tag team of their generation.
Mm-hmm.
So what I say, I'm about to say with love, because I love the Usos. The Uso Penitentiary, love the Usos. Amazing tag team, just amazing.
Yep.
I give the video package an A+++. Nobody does it better than the WWE, and that one was probably maybe the best one of the whole weekend. It was awesome. I give the match an F-.
Yeah.
F-.
Damn.
That's
And
fair.
I'm changing that from the night of. I give it a C+ because I was wowed by the video package. But I'm gonna separate the two.
Fair.
It's like an F-.
Yeah.
So here's why it doesn't make any sense to me. Besides the fact the match was blah and there was missing emotion and all that sort of stuff. Night one, you want everything stacked against Cody, everything, and the Usos match between themselves. It has to be part of that narrative for me. Otherwise, why are you doing it? Just do it on a Monday Night Raw or do it on a lesser pay-per-view. But you're on night one and you're leading into the Bloodline match, which leads into night two. You want that whole deck stacked against Cody. The guy who should have gone over was Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso should have gone over. Jay loses everything on night one, comes up Bloodline. And instead, we get Jay coming over. Now, in a regular match, that's the right call. Put it on Extreme Rules or some other pay-per-view. Fine. Jay goes over. Let him finish it at SummerSlam. Jay absolutely goes over. Because you're right, Andrew. He's a really good singles wrestler. Jimmy Uso, he's a mid-carder at best. Fine. But that night, I'm sorry. You come out. They stare at each other in the ring. If I'm writing this, and then Jimmy just low blows him between the, like crotches him, whatever, brings him down, kicks the hell out of him. Solo can come in and, give him the Samoan spike. They eviscerate Jey Uso. So that you're thinking, story-wise, the next night, oh, geez, like Seth got blasted last night. Jay got blasted last night. The announcer's like, are these guys going to be able to help Cody? I think Cody's on his own because Jay got taken out. Like, take him out. Seth got taken out. Take these guys out. And boom, there you go. For me, it was the only storytelling misstep of the entire weekend. And it's because they viewed the Usos match as maybe an Usos match when it was supposed to be part of the Bloodline story. That's the whole point. And they just absolutely botched it for me. And it's a shame because that video package they should do a singles match, give them a lot more time, better build, and let them have their final fight. And then they can reconcile down the road afterwards. That was not what this match should have been. This match was supposed to be kicking the proverbial bleep out of Jay so that people start to wonder, is he available the next night? They didn't do any of that. Instead, they put Jay over Jimmy. I'm sorry, don't buy it. And it actually undercut when Jay came out and took Jimmy out the next night, which would have been so much more powerful if he'd gotten his butt whooped the night before.
Sure.
So,
I agree with that.
I'm on commentary. Hey, go to commercial break. Commercial break. Commercial break. Go to commercial. Stop. Commercial.
This episode is brought to you by Absurd by Design. Artist Miguel Romero brings your imagination to life with custom artwork in his meticulous and unique style. You don't have to look any further than the brilliant podcast logo art right here for Somewhere in the Ring. We could not be more satisfied and inspired with what Miguel created for our podcast. So, whether it's book covers, promotional ads, special gifts, or even podcast logos, Miguel works with you directly to create a piece of art for any occasion or project. Commissions are now open, so be sure to check out his work and get Absurd by Design. Visit absurdbydesign.wordpress.com or click the link in the show notes. Thank you again to Absurd by Design. All right, let's move on. We'll breeze through a couple of these so we get to night 2. I don't want to breeze through them, but you know what I mean. Damage Control versus Jade Cargill, Naomi, and Bianca. I'm just going to go with what I thought quick. I thought the entrances were all fantastic. Everyone looked amazing. Dakota Kai actually really impressed me in this match. I was not a huge fan of her wrestling before this, but I thought she really did look pretty good in the ring. Let's see. What else do I have here? Cargill got tagged in, and she easily kind of mauled over everyone as she's doing lately. And Cargill picked up the win for the team. It was a lot shorter than I expected, but I think the true hero in this match for me personally was Bianca Belair, as usual. Just overpowered everyone, even Jade Cargill, who's still learning and learning from the best, I think, right now in this group she's in. And for me, Bianca was the hero of this match overall. So I gave it a B+.
Yeah. I think this is one of those instances where the modern era might be getting in the way of some things, which is that I think Jade was not ready. I think that this was like a good way to hide how stiff she is right now. And I don't remember her being that stiff in the matches I saw her in AEW, but maybe I'm just misremembering or something. But it is... Even I think the night after, because I don't know if we'll be able to get to too much into Raw later, but I think that was a better, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, to give her kind of the Goldberg treatment, which they did the next night in her match against Chelsea Green, which is just she comes up, beats somebody up for 2 seconds, and then you get her out of there. Because all this did was make me go like, oh, they probably shouldn't have done this yet. And the next night would have been more impactful had she not been there the night before. But because
Agreed.
everything has to be like kind of a competition now and everything's out there, they had to announce her signing. And then I think people were pulling like a where's Poochie, where they're like, where's Jade Cargill? Like, where's Jade Cargill? Like, and then so they finally bring her out. And I think that's also a big reason why we didn't see Jacob Fatu on this past weekend, and why they didn't announce his signing. It just got out there. I think he told people that he had signed because the expectations will get even higher if they announce that they have somebody. And I think expectations are rightfully high for Jade Cargill, but I thought this was like an okay showing, saved by everyone else in the match. I really believed that Jade Cargill was much better because of the way Asuka was responding to getting beat up by her and how they were selling those kind of moves and stuff. So I would still put it at like a B, but I do think they gotta be a little bit more careful when it comes to Jade in the future. And I think the next night was a better showing of that.
Fair. Paul?
You give it a C+. Jade Cargill didn't kill anyone by mistake. Good. Yeah, she didn't Goldberg to Bret Hart anyone. She was still stiff. She was stiff and she was raw in AEW, and that's gotten a little better, but from what I've seen, not a lot yet. And I don't think it ever will. I think she is who she is. She's going to go one of two ways. She'll either be massively superstar popular, but never a great wrestler. But she is who she is. Like, she's Jade Cargill. She's Goldberg. She's a female Goldberg.
Yeah.
Or, within a year, we'll be wondering what happened to Jade Cargill, because she'll have her moment and she won't be able to deliver. I honestly don't know, because AEW did such a terrible job of showcasing her, because they don't really care about women's wrestling. So WWE is the best place for her by far. If anyone can make her a success, it's them. And so she's got all the potential to do that in the world. But in terms of wrestling, you're right. Bring her in, squash, run like a 60-0 streak, have her win a title, see what happens. See if she gets massively over. That's the course for her. So the match itself, like I said, a C or a C+. Bianca, looked great. The others were fine. Jade Cargill didn't kill anyone. Perfect.
Fair enough.
Nobody died. That's fair. Nobody died. All right. Gunther versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. Awesome Rocky-esque package for this one. I loved it. Kevin Owens was there to wish Sammy luck, which was really cool.
And apparently Sammy didn't know that
it was a
happen.
Great match.
Yeah.
That's so I love that.
Yeah.
That.
One of the matches of the weekend, easily.
Match of the night for me, personally.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Sammy surprised Gunther with some aggression, put a German suplex on him. Gunther put one on Sammy, which kind of stopped him in his tracks, and then we saw the true underdog for the rest of the match pretty much until we got towards the end. And Gunther was talking trash to Zayn's wife, which is always a great heel move. I love that. But I won't give away the rest of the match. Andrew, do you want to take it from there? Sort of your thoughts on the match overall, and what ended up happening?
What I love too is it's a perfect example of the kind of match you can have in pro wrestling. We can get out of pro wrestling, where by all intents and purposes, someone like Gunther should just power through someone like Sami Zayn. But that's why it's wrestling. That's why it's fun, because you can see somebody like Sami Zayn give Gunther a brain buster, which he hasn't done since his El Generico days, and just drop him head first onto that turnbuckle. Incredible spots. And Gunther did a great job selling it. And it was one of those things where I think it could have gone poorly but it just didn't. Everything about that match clicked, and everything was firing on all cylinders. And it was a match where, honestly, when it was first announced, I wasn't that excited about, and it was a match of the weekend for me. Like, it's an easy A for me on this one. Just incredible stuff, incredible emotion from Sammy, and I think he earned it.
I should mention I gave it an A+. So I think we're on the same page there. I do want to mention, and I believe Paul brought this up to me, Gunther's reign. Guess how many days it was?
666.
Yeah.
So as a TV ghost hunter,
6. Yes.
Part-time demonologist. That was a nice little touch.
There you go.
Paul, what did you think of the match?
Loved it. I love Gunther. Gunther's awesome. He's amazing. I can watch him fight anyone.
Yep.
I love Imperium too. They're amazing. I'd give the match an A- only because I predicted Gunther to win and Ryan predicted Sami Zayn, and that was the tiebreaker for the night. So I lost the prediction war on night one because they put Zayn over Gunther. So boo! I'm taking an. Otherwise, it was an A. Those guys can't put on a bad match. Like their floor is a B. Gunther's floor is a B, and it's up from there. He'll go on to bigger and better things now, fighting Cody or somebody for the main titles, which he should. I hope he gets one someday because he could have a great heel run. He's just such an amazing talent. We are blessed to be living in Gunther's universe. So yeah, that was a great pro wrestling match.
Yeah,
everything good about pro wrestling was in that match.
Agreed.
The Rock and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. I'm not going to get too in depth. Match was all over the place. I thought Rock did a decent job for not having wrestled a match in 10 years or so. Pretty solid. He sold a lot of it. You could tell he was getting a little tired halfway through. Let's see what else I have here. Funny moment for me was when Rocky and Rollins went at it, and The Rock told the ref that he'd fire the ref if he counted him out.
Yeah.
So that was, again, flexing those heel / boss muscles right there. I thought was really a really good touch. Rock was cheating a bunch throughout the match. Again, I thought that was fantastic. And yeah, it was an okay match. Nothing really wowed me throughout it. And I won't give away the ending. I'll let Andrew, you take the lead from there. But I gave this match overall a B-. So yeah, do you want to cover sort of the latter half of it, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got to see like a little moment of division between The Rock and Roman, where Roman hit The Rock with a spear, which I thought was like a highlight of the match, if not the highlight of the match. And I think we got what I love too is they just tried to mirror the WrestleMania from the year before where Cody lost, even how he was sitting in the ring and how they shot him like it's the same shot to him sitting dumbfounded like last year. I loved that kind of mirroring. And I think that this one would probably fall on a B+ for me personally, just because I think it lived up to what the kind of match it was supposed to be, even if that match isn't anything like, it's not Gunther and Sami Zayn. Like it's not. What's so funny to me is I think both matches leading up to the main events did a little bit of a better job of standing on their own than the main events themselves, which is kind of fun. And look, that's not to say the main events weren't very good, but I do think the night 2 main event was almost everything I wanted. A little hint there. But I think that the tag match was like what Paul has been bringing up a lot, like this kind of fun chaos. And it was interesting to this kind of benefit of having a 2-night event and having the main events be so directly tied as we got to see our heroes lose and then come back from adversity the next night and win, which is really exciting and really fun and kind of added to the whole thing. So yeah, but a solid B+ for me, just because, The Rock I love the character that he has now. I love his stupid outfits. I love all that stuff, but I love that he is a boss who can wrestle, who can get in the ring. It feels very old school to me, but not in like a bad booker books themselves in every main event kind of a way. That being said, I wish he was a little bit more ready to go, as it were. I will say this match made me go, thank God we didn't get Rock versus Roman Reigns, because I don't know if that match would have been any good personally. It would have been a draw. I don't know if it would have been a good match.
Paul, what were your thoughts on the end of night 1?
So there's 2 ways to love pro wrestling. One is and this is kind of an AEW thing, to love, when I say AEW, I choke, to love the wrestling. So a great match is a great match, and AEW puts on a lot of them. And absolutely, Gunther, Sammy was a great match. Was the main event great wrestling, like pro, grapple wrestling? No. But the other way you can love pro wrestling is story. And so I circle back to where I began. You know, what fascinated me as a kid was the stories. Like Leo Burke's been fighting Big Stephen Pettipaw for the, title for like 3 weeks or 3 months, and it's going to culminate this Saturday afternoon. Ooh, tune in. I give it an A plus and the story for me, I'll dock one little teeny tiny point, so I'll give it an A because of the whole Jimmy J Uso thing, because I still a missed opportunity. So I'm going to make him pay for that. But it's an A because that's the story. Boom, landed it. Heels crushed the faces, and which is why the Jay and Jimmy Uso thing annoys me still. But heels crush the faces, leave them defeated. This is like Empire Strikes Back. They're defeated.
Sure.
Ooh, and there's been some twists and stuff. And yeah, well, hold on now. Return of the Jedi. Literally, here comes, some old-fashioned Jedi in to save the day on night 2. And just chef's kiss. And I know, some of the true, like the Dave Meltzers of the world would give it maybe 2 stars. I don't know. And I just go, cool, you're missing half of what wrestling is, which is spectacle and story. The Rock's maybe the biggest star of his generation. I think he probably is. Is he the best wrestler? No. But is he the biggest star? Yes. And he nailed every storytelling note of that night. I was like manna from heaven for me. So this to me, and so to put those 2 matches back to back is to me everything pro wrestling is. And AEW can only do one of those things really well. The Gunther Sammy stuff. Cool. And that's great. Fantastic. But then you follow it up with, this is the culmination of a 4-year story or a 2-year story in Cody's case, and it's all coming to a head. And yeah, we know how it's going to end. But I also knew that, the Rebels were going to win in Return of the Jedi too. Like, it's how you get there. And so 1, 2, that's pro wrestling on night 1, those 2 matches, the best in both different ways. So I was just like, yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. It invigorated, I think, all of us to look forward to night 2, and which would be Bloodline Rules in the main event. Let's do it. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre.
This is my only A+ of the weekend. It really is. Top to bottom, T to B. I thought everything about this match was perfect. I thought the result was perfect, and I thought the aftermath was perfect. Again, just like, and it was this way of merging all this long-term storytelling just for people. Like you have Seth and you have Drew wrestle a hell of a match. You have Drew win in a way that felt believable and felt real. And they got to play off of the night before because Seth could be believably beaten in a way that didn't hurt him or hurt his stock. And it only raised Drew McIntyre. And then to have him go over and try to take shots at CM Punk, have CM Punk rip off that arm brace and take him out, and then have Damian Priest come cash in. I was literally standing up in my living room going, oh my God. Like it was awesome. Like it was the best T to B top to bottom match of the weekend for me personally. My only A+. I thought they did every piece went together. Everything that you could want from that match happened. Everything that needed to happen from that match happened. It's my A+ of the weekend.
Love it.
And what a way to kick off night 2. Like, what a way to kick off night 2. That's
how you kick off. I give it an A+ as well. I'm just going to say a few highlights. I want Paul to end with this match. McIntyre hit a Claymore right at the beginning of the match, and that was a bold move. I was like, oh my God, what is about to happen? So
I thought it was almost over, which a near pin that feels believable is another great thing in pro wrestling that is so hard to pull off. And for a half second, I was like, holy cow, I think Drew McIntyre just won this match right off. I know. And then
it was a little scary.
Like, it was great. Really good.
It was great. At one point, McIntyre did actually tweet from his Twitter account, scored at work. Right. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a joke that someone quickly made a meme. No, that came from him in real time. I believe it was his wife or girlfriend who had that phone at ringside, and he literally tweeted that out in real time. Incredible. Again, these are just the touches that make him and the WWE just, again, chef's kiss. The cash in was great. I did not see it coming at all. Paul predicted it again, exactly as it happened. Good to see Punk now terrorizing McIntyre, which I'm really looking forward to. And I thought this is a great way to kick it off. So Paul, I'll give it to you, man.
So Ryan and I tied in our predictions for night 2, and the tiebreaker, I determined it because it was my house, was that I called the Damian Priest cash in. Now I got it wrong. I actually thought Seth would go over because I believed, and then Priest might cash in on Seth. But I said if McIntyre goes over, he's definitely cashing in. The Seth argument was for me, this we all think we're smarter than the bookers, right? And sometimes we are, but sometimes we're not. I wasn't. They were. I thought Seth goes over. Drew continues his spiral down into evil, and he wins at Clash at the Castle, maybe in front of his home crowd. Great. No, like, cool. Put him over, and I thought Punk would interfere during the match. Ooh.
Me too.
So I had the easy, like there's booking 101. They went off script. It's like McIntyre goes over, and then he builds some character. He wins, but then he goes, as you say, Andrew, around. And he just can't let Punk go. And Punk's
So
like, dude, I got cans on. I can't hear you. And
Yeah, I would love that. I love that.
and they counter program Punk's reputation in AEW, which is he's a hothead. He doesn't want any of this. Like, enjoy your moment, man. Zen. Like, you won.
Yeah, dude.
Congrats. And then he just goes one step too far. Hubris. It's the great bringer down of empires. And, then Punk whacks him. And I'm like, holy, here comes the cash in. Boom, Priest. And then Priest, I always have a problem with cash-ins, especially when guys lose, because they don't take full advantage of the case. Priest comes down. He goes, I'm cashing in. Whack. Like, don't waste the case, guys.
Yep.
Hit the guy in the head and really take him out. And he hits that note, goes in, and I will only end by saying A+++, because everything worked. And I'm a huge Damian Priest fan, have been from the get-go. The Archer of Infamy, like, I think he's got 2 or 3 years of a really good main event run in him. He's a little older. Maybe he can go 4 or 5 now. But yeah, put the title on him. That guy will deliver in the upper card time after time after time after time. And in the press conference, which I don't know if you guys have watched it or not, but the other thing I like about Priest as a person, he comes across as humble and thankful and genuine and just real. So he was doing things like, 10 years ago I was homeless, and now here I am, the world champion. And
incredible.
If I can do it, I'm an idiot. Anyone can do it. You guys can pick yourself up. It's not quite Cena-esque, but it's that, I know he's a heel, but in the press conference, he is a face. He is a baby face with attitude. At some point, they're going to have to put him there because the audience will want him to be that, and so he will. But he comes across as just a good guy. And, I don't know, he might be a horrible person. He comes across, he presents as one. And it was really nice in the press conference. They were all happy to have won, but he seemed like genuinely, like this, and Puerto Rico, to all my people back in Puerto Rico and what Puerto Rico's been through over the last several years. He hit all the right notes. So everything about that is a win-win-win for me. I'll be quiet for a lot of these other matches, but Damian Priest cash in, Drew, and his descent into madness. That is pro wrestling at its apex. Sports entertainment at its apex.
I agree.
Love it. The Bondage Undertaker. Okay, the Philly Street Fight, the Pride versus Final Testament. Snoop Dogg on commentary for this one, which was awesome. But I feel bad that this was the match he had to commentate. Bubba Ray Dudley served as the special guest referee, which was a good. I get it. I totally get it. Good to see him. First WrestleMania for Karrion Kross, Akam and Rezar, so that's cool. Like, they got their first ever WrestleMania match. But I'm just gonna say it, like, most of the good bumps that happened in this match were by Scarlett, which is a problem when, like, kind of the person not in the match is the one taking the biggest hits. There were kendo sticks, there were trash cans, there were chairs. Everything was used, to a good extent, but it just was not any of their nights. I'm just going to say it. I think they were cursed or something. You had one point where they tried to put Karrion Kross on a table for was it Montez Ford to put him through the table, and the table just collapsed while they were trying to put Karrion Kross up on it. It was very hard to watch. So awkward. I almost had to leave the room. And yeah, for me, the Pride ended up winning, so that's cool. I would have loved to have seen Final Testament win. I'm rooting for them. Still am, especially carrying Cross. But overall, I gave this a C. Actually, I'll bump it up to a C plus because I just feel bad. I feel bad for all of them. So,
Yeah.
Paul, what'd you think?
I give it a C minus, and it really should be something in the D range. Look, Bobby Lashley should be at or near the main event from time to time, and when he's not, he should be in the mid card fighting for a U.S. title or something. The guy's he's kind of getting wasted. I don't think they're going to do anything with the Pride, really. You know, the Hurt Business was the winner there, and so he's been down that route. Montez Ford should be in the main event. I don't know why he isn't. You know, he's the Shawn Michaels to Dawkins, Marty Jannetty, and that's unfair to Dawkins because he's good. But he's a mid-carder. Montez Ford's a main eventer. And yet they're still circling the wheels there. So, the Authors of Pain, I loved them when they were in NXT. They've flopped every time on the main roster in a way, not since the, what was the one with Victor and the other guy? The Apocalypse or whatever they were called.
Yeah. I know.
See, I can't even remember. I loved them in NXT too, and they just didn't translate to WWE. So Authors of Pain are in the same thing. Nice to see Paul Ellering get his first apparently WrestleMania appearance. Check for him. Karrion Kross. You've got Scarlett and you have a paycheck. Take what you got, man, because you are never getting over. Ever. You are a lower mid-carder, and I don't know if that's deserved or not. I don't know. You were okay in NXT, but they keep trying and it just doesn't work. And so your career isn't over, but you're never going to be the guy. You're never going to be one of the guys. You know, be happy in the mid card because that's at least you can pay for the house. That's my review of the match. Some guys who should be up there were in it. Some guys who should be down there shouldn't have been elevated to WrestleMania. Put these guys in the Battle Royal, you know. And so the whole thing just is a complete flop. Nice to see nice to see Bubba Ray come out. It wasn't Devon. Devon would have been better. Nice to see Bubba Ray come out and have a nice moment.
Let's move to a straight up singles match. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. Just pummeling one another. Fantastic wrestling in my opinion. Perfectly executed. Let's see. After countering the phenomenal forearm, Knight won with a BFT for the win. I thought that was awesome. LA Knight needs it. Again, his first WrestleMania, which is awesome to see him come out victorious. And I think they just nailed this match. It was a perfect WrestleMania match for me. So I'm going to give it an A+.
Nice.
Who's next?
I mostly caught this one off and on because I was making pizza, which came out delicious, by the way. But I don't stand much to rate it, but I did think what I saw was good. And they're real sweet on LA Knight right now, so good for him.
Paul?
A-, AJ Styles. I love him. He's one of the great talents of his generation. The guy doesn't need a win. He's gold. LA Knight, my brother joined us for the second night of watching it. He's still not quite sold on LA Knight. Calls him a cut rate Steve Austin. I think that's unfair. He's still massively over. Put him in a upper, like the Intercontinental title, US title. See what he can do when he's got a title. Guy's got talent. Crowd loves him. He's got a good gimmick. Right result. A-.
Let's move on. Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton for the U.S. title. Amazing entrances. Logan Paul came in on his prime truck with a cannon. Orton and Owens came down on a golf cart, which I'm convinced will become a new meme and GIF to be used. And Zayn was waiting backstage to wish KO luck. Again, circling back to that, which was awesome. And they beat the hell out of Logan Paul at the beginning. And then
because that was happening
from there.
Yeah, so because that was happening, I turned to my wife and I was like, Logan Paul's probably going to win this match because he's getting beaten up. Just storytelling wise, there's no way he's going to get beat up this bad and not win. You're talking about genuine heat. Like they have Logan Paul's character down to like a science because he's just being himself. We see so often in wrestling, people try to make fun of things that are relevant or popular and stuff. And Logan Paul is that great mix where he is like a YouTuber, like he is the bad guy that he's presenting himself as. So it's just all feels very genuine and real. I would give this one an A- only because this is the second, maybe even third time that we've seen him win with the help of somebody hiding in that Prime costume. And I just thought that was kind of a cheap way to end it again, like to have that happen again. The last time it was the Isa, whatever the other person's name, and this one it was something speed or something, another, all these different YouTubers, and I'm like, I get that's his angle, but to have the finish be so similar to the last time, even though I love the quick, like, oh, Orton ends Owens and then Paul gets Orton out of the ring, like that stuff's all fun, but the hiding in the pride, a lot of it just felt like similar beats, and I don't think Paul has hit his roof yet, so it was kind of disappointing to see it kind of end that way, but it was still, I thought, a great match, so an A- for me.
Okay, fair. Paul?
So we're in Wolfville, Nova Scotia, where Acadia University is, filming, Ryan and I. And I went here. I met my wife here. So I walked downtown earlier this afternoon to get a coffee at Just Us Coffee there. And as I was walking, I was imagining that I was walking next to my wife 35 years ago and reliving those memories, and realizing that when you love something, or in this case, someone, cherish every moment, be in the moment, and because they go by so fast. So my review of this match is fine. I'll give it a B+, A-. Did everything, but for me, oh God, I hope my wife isn't listening. I mean this in the best way, honey. Randy Orton is my wife in pro wrestling. Like, yes. Randy Orton.
Yep.
I cherish every moment that Randy Orton is in a wrestling ring, because it will end someday.
Yep.
And when that day comes, I will be sad. I love Cena. I love a lot of wrestlers, but for me, Orton is the best of his generation.
Yep.
And I'd like to see him get to 16 titles and stop. Ty Flair, Ty Cena. Orton is so slick. He's so good. He's become better with age as he's matured as a person. His character work is really amazing. To see him in action with Kevin Owens, who is great. Owens is great. And Logan Paul, who is absolutely a mega heel. He gets it. I don't like the guy, but he gets it. I was just sitting there going, how many more of these do we have from Orton? I don't know, because he was injured too. So you really, it's like Sheamus. You really appreciate when these guys that you love, as they get older. So I just sat back and I went, this is me with my wife 35 years ago walking down. I want to appreciate this moment, because I hope I'm around in 30 years. I want to remember every Randy Orton WrestleMania moment if I don't remember the rest of them. The guy is gold. So my review, A- for the match, A+ for Randy Orton.
Love that. Yeah, Orton's awesome. Yeah, yep.
Love it. All right, we're almost there, guys. We have next for the women's championship, Io Sky versus Bayley. I didn't have much expectation going into this, to be completely honest, but I actually loved the match. Io focused on Bayley's injured leg, and it looked legit brutal at times. Io, I think, really, really stepped up her game in this match. I thought she did a wonderful, wonderful job on the biggest stage that she could have to eventually drop her belt, which good for her. She held it for a while. Good for her, but I think it was time. And Bayley just looked amazing. I thought she did a wonderful job. I think she deserved it. She came out with the win. She defeated Io Sky. And yeah, I thought, again, it was just a great, great singles match for the championship. I gave it an A.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I just thought it was fun. It was competent. Bayley's incredible. Io is incredible. It's an A for me as well. I also just was so happy. I think we talked about the night of that. Sometimes the match before the main event can be a bit of a letdown, and sometimes that can kill momentum. And I think they did a really good job both nights of putting forward really strong, to Paul's point as well, wrestling matches, like pro wrestling matches, that kind of stuff before they had their big, story fest going on. Like the matches leading into both were just solid, competent wrestlers excelling at what they do. And so it's a solid A for me. I was just really enthralled, which is always exciting.
Mm-hmm. Paul?
A-. And so highlighting Orton, now I'll highlight Bayley. Charlotte Flair is Charlotte Flair. Becky Lynch is the man. Sasha Banks / Mercedes Moné is the story, because, where's she going to go and everything. And Bayley's the fourth horsewoman that often has gotten lost in the conversation. In terms of in-ring ability, she's as good as any of them. And in terms of her character work, she's as good, if not maybe a little better than a couple of them.
Really good on the mic.
Yeah. And also a genuine pro wrestling fan, and her backstory and everything about her. So she got her WrestleMania moment. Io Sky is a great wrestler who just doesn't seem over with the crowd. Okay. She's actually one of these people that if AEW cared about its women's division, she'd actually probably be better in AEW, honestly, or at least have a better shot. But Bailey, great. Absolutely fantastic. I'm glad to see her back as a face with a bit of an edge. And again, in the press conference, she was Bailey. She was very humble and thankful, and she's fun, and she seems like the kind of person you'd want to hang out with and have a beer or whatever. Where a lot of wrestlers are not that person. So so great, good for her.
We've made it, guys. The Universal Undisputed Universal. What are they calling it? I don't even know anymore.
Total complete.
The title. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. Almost 2 years in the making, if you really look at it. I thought Brandy Rhodes, coming out with Cody was awesome. I loved the mask. It reminded me of like He-Man almost. I thought that was super cool.
And designed by Bray Wyatt's best friend, apparently, who used to design his stuff, which is pretty great. Yeah.
Love that.
Yep.
Wow. Deep cut there, Andrew. Good job, buddy. I love it. And then Roman Reigns coming out to like an actual orchestra, which I thought actually sounded better than his official theme music.
Good.
Perfect way to set up the match, I thought. I don't even know where to begin. It was a standard match for quite a bit at the beginning before it went to Bloodline Rules again,
which it needed to be.
And I think it did. It did. I agree with you, Andrew. And then we started to see the Bloodline Rules thing sort of creep in, where Cody went to grab a table and Roman stopped him and put the table back under, which talk about getting heat.
Funny.
That was awesome. The crowd went nuts. They were like, "Are you kidding me?" And then I'm not even going to go into it. Let me know what you guys thought of what happened after as the match went on and how it all played out. Andrew, we'll start with you, buddy.
I will say that so much of what happened felt very satisfying. I agree with Paul that the Usos thing didn't feel as satisfying, even though I couldn't put my finger on it at the time, but I think he articulated that very well as to why that was a little underwhelming. But I still wouldn't take them off too many points for that. Here's the thing. If it's WrestleMania, if you're going for your big thing and you want to make all the pieces fit together, you have a situation like what happened at the beginning of the night with Punk and Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest and Seth Rollins. And while I had come to especially appreciate the Seth Rollins moment, a lot of people have pointed out how that was some long-term like post-Shield breaking up booking that was really fun and interesting. The thing that would have made this unlike any main event ever in wrestling would have been Stone Cold Steve Austin showing up. Instead, we got The Undertaker, who was in a sweater and a knit cap. He looked very comfortable. I'm glad he was warm.
All that, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Exactly. Look, age comes
even
for us all.
Dead people get cold.
Yeah. Look, and it just made almost no sense. I've seen people trying to fold themselves up into a suitcase like Bugs Bunny, trying to be like, well, the Undertaker did this to Rikishi and did this against this person and this against this person. And I'm like, I get it. The Undertaker's been around long enough. He has history with everyone. Like, that's what happens when you wrestle for 30 plus years. But when you have John Cena come out, and you have The Rock get the edge over John Cena because The Rock came out on top, I believe, in their matches against each other, or did they split down the middle? I could be wrong. The only person that has consistently beaten The Rock at WrestleMania is Stone Cold. That's the story. If you want to have it be this person who beats the final boss who has beaten them before, it's just not Undertaker. Was that fun? Absolutely. Did it surprise me? Yes, because it didn't make a lot of sense. But it just, because The Undertaker, and you know what? If I hadn't seen The Undertaker in 5 or 6 years, that would have made it more exciting too. But he's never really gone away, even after he retired. So I just thought that was kind of like okay, fun. It's the Undertaker. Okay, can you imagine? Can you imagine if instead of that ding, the glass broke? Like that is what that moment needed to make it truly unlike anything else. Instead, it felt like it's like, well, Stone Cold doesn't feel like it, or he didn't want the money that we offered him, or any of a plethora of reasons for him to not show up. Instead, it just felt like, all right, well, we can get Taker down here, so just get Taker down here because he'll do almost anything at this point. So it just felt that's what it's still an A, but it kept it at an A for me instead of being an A plus. The only A plus, the thing where every single piece went together perfectly was the kickoff of the night. At the end of the night, very fun, just an A for me.
Love it. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. Like my prediction, this went exactly as I envisioned, except for Undertaker and Stone Cold. And I don't brag often. I don't. I'm not one of those people. But I called this match person by person, order by order, and structure by structure until it got to the Undertaker. So I was just as let down as you were, Andrew. I honestly thought something had to have happened. Negotiations fell out. Something Austin just couldn't make it logistically. That had to be the plan. It had to. There's no way it wasn't, in my personal opinion. I could be completely wrong, but I agree with you. A would have been A+ if it had been Stone Cold. So,
Yep.
Paul, we will leave you with the final thoughts on the final match of WrestleMania 40.
Well, I'll hit a few points. One, I thought the ending was a bit rushed. These are things I won't docket points for, but Seth, he wasn't done dirty, but we missed him coming through the crowd. And this is like to me, this match was like a novel that I read, and and then you go, that was good, but I have qualms. And then you start to work through the qualms, and I can work through the Seth one. Somebody missed a camera cut. I can forgive them for that. They got the moment right where he whacks. It would have been better if they played it better, but I get the moment. So, okay, now I didn't see that at first. Now I get it. Boom, deep. Love it. I absolutely agree with you guys about The Undertaker. Especially, like, if he's coming and you gong it, like, if you're going to do it, bring him out as The Undertaker. Let him walk down, do the whole thing, But even then, I wouldn't have done it. Stone Cold, absolutely the best option. But for whatever reason, let's assume they couldn't get him. I have a better option. And I don't care how he gets to the ring. Call Mick Foley. Because Mick Foley has more history with The Undertaker with The Rock than The Undertaker does. And when Rock was heel. So get Mick Foley, like, what are you doing, Rock? Blah, blah. And The Rock's like, what the? And pull out Mr. Sacco and take him down. You would get a bigger pop from Mr. Sacco taking The Rock down than you did from The Undertaker choke slamming him when we just saw him like 2 years ago or whatever. And we see him every 2 or 3 times a year. And we had the documentary series, which was really good. But Mark Calloway is not a surprise anymore. Have Foley hobble himself down to that ring, which I'm pretty sure you could have paid him beer money and a sandwich and upped his pension a little. And I don't know. I would have just totally marked out. And I went, screw Austin. Mick Foley and The Rock and Sock connection. Yes, there you go. That's how you put The Rock in his place, because he's evil now. And Austin just beat him up, but Foley turned him. And to me, that would have been some good storytelling. But so they didn't do it. The Undertaker, fine. It is what it is. I will say this, and I know you guys don't talk about this a lot, but I will put this up one more time. Oh, there it is.
Yep. Yeah.
So I give this an A+++++ though, for 2 reasons. One, the culmination of 2 long-term stories. Cody Rhodes, which I care a little less about. I do think within a year they'll be booing him, but I hope I'm wrong. We'll see. But Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. I have friends on Twitter mostly who have spent the last 2 or 3 years bashing Roman Reigns, bashing the Bloodline. I've occasionally done it myself. Like, I wanted Sammy to win. This guy should have won. This guy should have won. Seth should have won when he was the Shield. And, nope. Cody should have won last year. Nope. WWE was right every step of the way, with the possible exception of bringing The Rock in and then having to pivot. But even then, they pivoted so great. Roman is the star of his generation. The bloodline story is something I will remember when I'm 90 in a senior citizens home. Sort of not remembering much of anything, but I remember what a run, what a larger than life figure. He's got a great overcame leukemia. His personal story is great. In the press conference, somebody asked him about that. He said, "I'll be on oral chemotherapy for the rest of my life." He's still dealing with that. I think he's an inspirational guy. I think the character, the storytelling, Jimmy and Jey Uso hiving off, everything about the bloodline was WWE at its best.
Yeah.
And it culminated with this the uber face of his generation, Cody Rhodes, who took his journey, so you can factor in his journey to the Indies and AEW, and finally finds his way home after being Stardust. Everything about that, even with the flaws in the match, even with the Austin thing, maybe, I just look and I went, yeah, you know what? Wow. That is some long-term storytelling that you stuck the ending. And kudos to Roman Reigns, whatever happens going forward with him. My thanks to the tribal chief for giving 4 years of amazing stuff and occasionally getting me angry that he still had the title. But, it wound up in the right place, and credit to WWE for knowing what they're doing. And I'll give one last shout out to my brother, because I bought Ryan a Cody Rhodes action figure when he got here in Halifax a few weeks ago. And my brother showed up on night 2 of WrestleMania with an Undertaker action figure. And Roman Reigns. And my brother he got that one. He sensed it was going to be Taker. So kudos to Jim Kimball. You got that one right.
Jim called it. I love it. Yep. Thank you, Roman Reigns. I'll just say it right off the bat. Thank you, Roman Reigns. Congratulations to Cody Rhodes, our new champion. And thank you to Seth Rollins. Everyone helped make this story what it was. Again, I hope Seth takes a break. I hope Roman has a great future with whatever comes next, whether it's wrestling, acting, I don't know. Incredible run. Absolutely. That might not be over. I will mention this, final thoughts for me. Amazing storytelling, so many title changes throughout the 2 nights, which was awesome. Truly a WrestleMania to remember. I'm putting it in my at least top 5 WrestleManias of all time, if not top 3. And we should mention the total attendance all together both nights was 145,298, which is just
a lot of people.
That's a lot. It's a lot of t-shirts, a lot of title belts, a lot of soda. I'll tell you that much. Amazing.
Yep.
Overall, let's do this. Overall grade for WrestleMania 40, gentlemen.
Solid A for me. Just solid A. There was still a couple hiccups. Those things are going to happen. I don't know if there will ever be like the entire, like there will never be 2 nights of just the CM Punk just that world heavyweight title match. That to me is like that kind of apex, and it would almost be an impossible feat to achieve. So, but I think there's nothing wrong with just a good old fashioned A.
Okay, Paul.
Despite my criticism of the Usos match, which as a match wasn't terrible, I should probably give it a C or a C+. Missed storytelling opportunity. That to me was the only real fault the whole weekend. I am willing to declare, I've seen a lot of WrestleManias, guys, like a lot, because I'm old. I think this is the best WrestleMania ever. And if it's not, it's an argument to have. And it's early days. Call me in a year or 2. Let me percolate on it. But there were no real, except for the Usos, no real missteps. There was an amazing, as you pointed out, Andrew, the Priest McIntyre stuff. That's like the culmination of the Bloodline storyline. It's like, to me, it was a perfect storm of WrestleMania. Absolutely one of the top 3 of all time. Might be the best of all time. Just they put on a great show. If this is the future for WWE under Paul Levesque, Triple H, then buckle in, sign me up. There's so much talent in WWE now. You're right, Andrew. They've got an overload of talent. Their biggest problem is to figure out how to get everybody involved in a meaningful way. That's a good problem to have. I think they will manage it better than some other promotions have. Pro wrestling again for me. And so I bashed AEW a lot, but pro wrestling is fun again. And some credit for that goes to AEW for all its flaws.
Yeah.
Because, maybe they force, and they give wrestlers options, and they give people like Cody and Mercedes Moné and other people options. And someday I hope Jon Moxley returns to WWE and we get a Shield reunion, if only once. Whatever happens, the world is our oyster now. As pro wrestling fans, there has not been a better time to be a pro wrestling fan since WCW and WWF were at their peak during the Monday Night Wars. Well, I don't think this is a war that it's in the same way. I do think AEW helps elevate WWE now. And I think WWE is at a level now that they've removed certain management figures that held it back. I mean, go for it. Just go for it, guys. I'm like a kid. I'm a kid again, sitting watching Leo Burke and Stephen Pettipaw fight. It's amazing.
Yeah. This made me truly feel like a kid again, this WrestleMania. I'll never forget it. I cried. I know Andrew cried a couple times. This was special. This was a very special event. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Again, new champion. I love it. We're not going to cover Raw. Not much happened. Unless, Andrew, is there anything big that happened? I wasn't able to catch all of Raw.
No, it's okay. The Rock has taken some time off. We won't be seeing him again anytime soon. Jey Uso is the new number one contender for the World Heavyweight title, and we got to see CM Punk screw over Drew McIntyre once again, which was very exciting. And no, the rest of it was just kind of like, it felt like a celebration, which was interesting. I think that was really fun. The one thing I've been seeing people talk about this, there was The Rock handed something to Cody Rhodes. And I've seen a lot of people say that it was Cody Rhodes or watch that Dusty Rhodes pawned, but Cody Rhodes had already gotten one of those, or at least that watch, maybe one of those watches the night before. He talked about it at the press conference and he showed it to everybody that it was a gift from Triple H and Nick Khan. So the watch makes sense size-wise, but I don't know if it makes sense like story-wise, but we'll see. I'll be interested to see whenever The Rock comes back. The Rock made it pretty clear that he wants to challenge Cody for that belt. We'll see if that happens, but it was interesting. It was kind of what was nice about it is it felt more like a coda and a little bit of like a new start. Like by the end of the night, I was like, okay, now we're into some new territory instead of I don't know what I was expecting. It was still a good Raw, but it was definitely a little bit more low key. They're just like, all right, we're kind of back to one and let's build.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that they also debuted two NXT stars.
Yeah.
Roxanne.
Yes.
What was her name? Roxanne Perez and Dragunov both made their Raw debuts. So that
was a fantastic match. Ooh, holy cow. Really good stuff.
He
really
is
good. Shinsuke, man.
Watch out for him.
For people who don't watch NXT, you're going to see something special with this guy.
Yeah.
He's that good.
Oh, amazing.
I can't wait. Yeah, a new era, guys. We are truly in a new era of wrestling in the WWE. I can't wait to see what comes next. And that's it. That's it. We did it. That was a marathon. But
worth it.
I love it. I love it. It was totally worth it. Before we let you go, Paul, can you tell us what you're up to? I have a feeling I might know what you're up to lately. But yeah, give us your social media if you're willing to share and what comes next for you, brother.
Ryan, it's a 7:30 call time tonight. You should know what we're up to. We're
oh God, I gotta get ready.
Investigating ghosts tonight. We're out in the parking lot. Ryan's just around the corner in the hotel for me.
I'm literally next door. Yeah,
shooting a television series called Haunted for Canadian television, and episodes are go to find out Eastlink Community Television, their YouTube channel. Past seasons are up, and then when we're done Haunted, moving to another series called Home Sweet Home. So I keep busy in the film and television world. It says so right here, I think. But I can always find time to watch pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Awesome. Andrew, let us know, buddy. You up to anything new? And where can we find somewhere in the ring?
Awesome. Well, for me, as always, check out pajiba.com, PAJIBA. I do some writing over there, and there are some really incredibly talented writers there as well. I have a short film that's going to be in a festival in Brooklyn at the end of I have two that thank you, Paul. One that I directed and one that I wrote. which is very exciting in last week of May, but I'll bring that up once we get a little bit closer. The Rat, which is a new theater space in Dumbo, Brooklyn, owned by Random Access Theater, who I do a lot of work with, are doing their inaugural Drunk Texts shows the weekend of May the 4th. For those who aren't familiar, it's basically where they take a classical text or a current text made classical, and they do stage readings of them and play drinking games. So it is a more adult-oriented thing, but it's a lot of fun. And they're doing two adaptations that I've written for them in the past. One of Star Wars: A New Hope, and the other one of Empire Strikes Back. So those will be going up that weekend. And also just check out The Rat, check out Random Access Theater. They're fantastic. And with us, somewhereinthering.com. You can find us at Patreon/somewhereinthering. Again, thank you to John K., our newest subscriber, which is really exciting. And please, especially if you spent all of this time with us, just take a moment right now, hop onto wherever you get your podcast, leave us a review. We will read it on the show happily. And it just helps with the visibility, helps get us out there. So please like, review, subscribe, all that good jazz. And we'll appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Well, Paul and everyone watching, listening, thank you once again for joining us somewhere in the ring, and we will see you next week. Ring that bell, Andrew.
Ding, 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 ding. Oh, yeah.
This has been Somewhere in the Ring. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your pods, and be sure to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever possible. We'll see you again soon, somewhere in the ring.
Clear, now you stay down. That. Clear, guys. That. You shut your mouth. Clear my ass. What? Just because the show's over, that doesn't mean that the stops. The Rock doesn't give a